Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Craft Around the Clock. This is my Makeover Monday last episode. I've done one every Monday in February, and if you want to go back and see any of them, you can see them on my page, MNC Treasures. My name is Cheryl, or you can see them in the Craft Around the Clock group. The Craft Around the Clock group's link is in my description. Make sure you're there. It's an awesome place to see live crafting every day, Monday through Friday for sure, for like 12 or 13 hours a day. Or you can do it a lot on the weekends live, and there's millions of replays in there. Good morning, Miss Patty. How are you? It is Monday morning, and it is going to be an awesome week. Hello, Ann McGlynn. How are you? So we are going to make over a couple of things. One is this little Happy Harvest. It's just a real thick wood block. I took the label off the back of it because this is what I just got it for a little shelf sitter back in the fall at Walmart. So guys, make sure you kind of keep an eye on little things like this, because you could leave it one season on one side. If you're not going to have it up against something you're going to see in a mirror. Good morning, Kathy and Christy. Or you can change it all the way around. I think I'm only going to do one side, and we'll see how that works out. I may change my mind. You never know about me. These are some little glass candlesticks that I have. These are like the ones from Dollar Tree, but these I got at a garage sale for like $1 a piece. I have 4 of them. These are smaller base than the ones at Dollar Tree, so they don't take as big a top to offset. Hello, Mary Jane. So I'm going to leave this because it's real light, and it's just got where that sanded off where that sticky stuff was on the tag. I'm going to leave it that color because we're just going to decoupage on top of it. Good morning, Anissa. How are you? Hey, Shelly and Miss Tracy. Good morning. Hey, Maria. So thank you guys all for jumping on. I know it's early in some parts of the United States. We are in the Eastern time zone, so it's a little bit later for us. I've been up for a while. Mike will, if you guys are used to Mr. Mike, my husband, being in here with comments, he is not feeling well. He was bad a day, then he was good yesterday, and now we're back to bad again. But our weather's really crummy this time of year. We get lots of rain and fog and wind here in East Tennessee this time of year. Hey, Debbie V. So I was at a little vintage, they call it vintage market, but it's like an antique mall or just a craft mall. For my birthday, Mr. Mike took me and we walked through it. It's huge. We didn't even get through the whole thing. But we're going to go back because we live so close. I got a whole bunch of these little knobs for these were 25 cents a piece, and they had up to handles and everything that no more than $1 a piece. So it was funny. I found them, and then Mr. Mike had to go to the washroom. So he came back and he goes, "Did you see that booth over there with all the knobs and handles?" And I held out my hands, and I had them in my hands. He's like, "Boy, we think a lot alike." Good morning, Rochelle and Mandy. So I had him drill a hole in the center. It's not quite centered, but you won't notice it too much. He was a little groggy when he did it, so I could have done it, but he likes to help me when I need things like that. Now, we are going to also use Waverly chalk paint in the color Celery, and I am going to do around the edge, the block itself, and I'm going to paint that before I do the decoupage, just so I don't mess up my pretty napkin. Hey, Ruthie. So, guys, if you want the least amount of brush strokes on a project, use real soft bristle, long soft bristle brushes, and those leave the least amount of brush strokes as you thin out your paint a little bit. But it's just going to turn it a real pale green as opposed to that baby blue. Like I said, the baby blue is okay to decoupage on top of. I'm not real sure why they did a baby blue on something that was a harvest thing, but we're going to leave it that way because once we get this on, it won't be baby blue anymore. You'll never know that baby blue was under there. You know, it might have been the paint they had left in the factory. Who knows? Hello, Chris Maher. Okay. I was going to say I might leave the bottom undone, but I won't, because that always bothers me then if I have to go back and mess something up. Hey, Cindy, good morning. Guys, make sure you stay in Craft Around the Clock this morning, and you can refresh. If you're on a mobile device, you can just pull the screen down, put your finger on it and pull it down and let it go, and it will refresh itself every 45 minutes all day long. Up after me will be Miss Chris from Creating with Chris Hunter. And this is early for her. She's usually one of our late night crafters. And then I'm not saying it's early for her to be up, but it's early for her to be on. Usually she's one of our late night gals. And then after her will be Miss Deb from Florida, and she's usually a late nighter too. Good morning, Ramona. Welcome, everyone. And guys, if I don't see your comments, I see that you're coming on, but my iPhone has not been giving me comments, and that's why it's been really nice having Mr. Mike in here, because he gets the comments. He doesn't get the, who's watching and stuff like that. So that's okay. Hello, Miss Mary. Hello, Laura. But I do get most of the comments, it seems like, when I go back and do the replay, which I do that as well. So I look at all the comments. So if you have any, thank you, Miss Pat. Now see, if I pay attention and just watch the screen, I can see them pop up at the top, but they never come down into the body. It's crazy. Thank you guys for sprinkling. That does help us. And guys, if you see some of my crafty brothers and sisters on here, we do, you do get a little follow out beside their business name if they come on as their business name, if you're not following them, and that just means the world to us. So, whoa, I about threw that paintbrush across the room. Good morning, Stephanie from the Vintage Pebble. So let me dry this real quick so I'll be able to sit it down. I'm not worried about any part except the bottom where I'm going to sit it down. Hey, Deborah. So I'm just going to show you guys a couple of little makeovers for a couple of smaller objects today so that you can make your own little vignette. You can put things together and add your spin on them. I am typically a shabby chic farmhouse type girl. I do some rustic now that we live in Tennessee. Didn't used to do very much of it, but it kind of goes with the territory, I think. Hello, Cynthia Shea. How are you? And it does not usually take chalk paint long to dry at all. So we're just going to make sure we get good and dry so I don't smear it all over everything. Hello, Andrea. Good morning, Deborah Nimmergut. Mr. Mike is not in here, but he will see the comments, and I tell him who I'll say good morning anyway, so he knows you guys love him. Hey, Monica, how are you? I'm trying to watch some of the top of my screen, and I haven't figured that out. I may have to go to using my laptop for comments when Mr. Mike can't be on, because I don't like not seeing what you guys have to say. Did you guys like Miss Pat's crackle that was on before? We all do it a little different, and she has, like she said, she doesn't always like her crackle, but she does great work, guys. So I don't know why she doesn't like her crackle. Now, this is actually a piece of paper that said this Happy Harvest. So if you want to, I don't know how good it would do to come off, but it's pretty stuck on there. Like I said, this came from fall time, and I think I'm going to leave it there for right now. Now, we have this beautiful napkin that I got from my crafty sister, Lisa, from Heart's Desire, Lisa and Jonathan. It has several birds on it and like a little vintagey postcard in the corner. So we're going to pick a bird to kind of put right in the center. Because it's springtime, I'm ready, and I'm going to actually pick the one with a little bit of pink, which is not typically me. Let me get this green paint out of the way before we have green paint all over everything. Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Beth and Lisa. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. And guys, I know you won't be, if you're not familiar with Craft Around the Clock, you will not be unhappy with getting in that group. So I'm just going to do the top little part. Now, because this is such a small surface and very square, I am going to leave it to where it would cover the whole thing. A lot of times I actually will feather the edges so you can see some of the background, and I'm not interested in seeing any of the background on this. So I'm going to just take and cut it out. I will probably cut just a tad extra because I can sand it off with a gator sander or a piece of sandpaper or a sanding block, whatever you have that works. You can also use emery boards for small projects. Those work really well. But we're not going to destroy this napkin because it's got lots of other cute little birds. Most of these look like goldfinches, I would say. There might be one, this might be a different kind of bird down here because he's kind of brown. But you have to make sure if you're not familiar with, I got to make sure I got it right side up because it makes a difference on this time. Making sure you get all your plies off. And I just take, good morning, Miss Sheila, my bestie. How are you? Hello, Sandy. Hello, Lori. And guys, Sheila knows a lot about we do a lot of things together. So if she sees a question that I'm not catching because I don't get all the comments, good morning, Cheryl Michi, how are you? Then she will chime in with an answer. So you just need to make sure you get all the little plies. This was a 3-ply and 2 plies came off at one time. Sometimes you're lucky like that. It just happens to be that I'm a little lucky like that. Because I don't want I'm going to turn my little iron on about medium high. I don't like it too hot because it will kind of do a snafu on you there and will actually make it stick worse than anything. Now, I just use I put Mod Podge in a squeeze bottle just because, and if you use the least amount of Mod Podge that your project requires, you will be much happier with the results. I try to use a chippy brush a lot of times, and I do use a little sponge most of the time, but I had my sponge out here the other day, and now I can't find my sponge to cut more pieces off. So I usually use an auto detailing sponge and just cut off a little piece so that it goes, after I'm done using it, it can go right in the garbage. Hello, Elizabeth. Make sure, guys, that you get all the way out to the edge. The edges are probably the most important because you don't want it to peel up on the edges. And then we're going to dry this, and we are actually going to, the reason we're going to dry it is we're using the iron-on method, which is easier to keep the wrinkles out. If you're not worried about the wrinkles, it doesn't matter. I have wrinkles, and that's okay, but sometimes I don't want my projects to have wrinkles. Good morning, Barb. And if you don't dry it all the way, if you don't get your Mod Podge good and dry, your parchment paper will actually stick to your napkin a little bit, and you don't want that to happen. Country Family Roots. I must be following you, but I'm not familiar with you, so I will have to check you out. Guys, make sure you check out everybody. Hey, Texas Breeze, how are you, sweetheart? You guys, there's lots of crafters on here this morning, and I so appreciate all my crafty sisters coming on. Cheryl Michi, I did send you a private message with the link you were looking for yesterday. So, and I just want to make sure that this is good and dry. The thinner the coat, the faster that Mod Podge dries, guys. So then I'm just going to center my little bird on here. And I am actually fudging it a little bit so that we probably only have to sand maybe 2 sides, maybe 3, because I did give it a little bit extra all the way around. Don't use wax paper. Make sure it's parchment paper. It can be white parchment paper, or there's a brown parchment paper. And these little irons, I got mine at Walmart in the travel section. They're not by the regular irons in our Walmart, but you can get them on Amazon as well. On something small, it's not real important, but if it's a large project, I still start. Hello, Miss Jackie from Shabbyology. I hope you're feeling better and recovering a little bit better, hon. To start in the middle and go to the outsides on all directions, it kind of ensures that you're not going to have those crazy wrinkles if you don't like them. But some of us don't mind, depending on if it's supposed to be a vintagey looking piece, a primitive piece, or anything like that. Now, you see where I just left it hanging over the edge? And then, like I said, you can take a sanding sponge, you can take all kinds of things. And if the napkin is real thin, it will just peel off right like that. Hey, Kay, good morning, Stacy. But I thought this would be cute to have something springy, and like, you know, if I wanted to leave it, I have left that harvest on there for right now. Usually I don't skip that many seasons. I would do like a spring and a summer, or a spring and a 4th of July type red, white, and blue project, because I do like to leave my things out for a couple of seasons if it's not going to show, if the back side doesn't show. And if you put it on a three-tiered tray, you might want to do both sides at one time so that there's something totally different. Good morning, Lisa Ann. Now, this little knob has this little part where a screw used to come in from the other side of the cabinet or other side of the drawer. This is a pretty tight fit, but I am still going to stick in some E6000, maybe. I don't think my mother's up yet, so she gets on to me for using my teeth for everything. I know I shouldn't. I'm just going to put a little dab. And like I said, it's a pretty tight fit, so it's okay. And guys, you could use like JP Weld. You could use all kinds of things instead of the E6000 if that bothers you. Some people, the smell does bother. And then we're just going to make sure this goes all the way down. Now, I'm going to just let that sit for a few minutes. It's just going to have this little knob, and you can make it where it stays up. You could, you could glue it with the E6000 and make sure the little knob stays up. You can put an actual little different kind of little knob. This one hangs over just a tad, and I'm okay with that because you don't really see it from, unless you turn it sideways, that it's extra little hangover. But that's a quick way to redo a little, another little sign that you've had from something else. You can go right over it. You might have would have had it, listen to me. Hello. Thank you, Lisa. Hello, there's Miss Debbie. She's going to be on after Miss Chris in about an hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes. But we're just kind of making a little vignette to go with it. Now, what I'm going to do with this knob, because it is an older knob and it's got like an antique brass, I'm just going to take, you can do rub and buff. If you don't have rub and buff, guys, you can use all your metallic paints just like it. Just use your finger. This is pure gold from Folk Art Metallic. I like it because it's water soluble. I just dip my finger in it a little bit. And then wherever I want to highlight, and if you start rubbing, it will smooth it all out. And I'm just going to add some of this gold back to it, just to have some shiny spots here, there, and everywhere, so to speak. So you can use it just like a rub and buff if you don't have the rub and buff. I do, but I like to show you guys that you can use other things so that you don't have to go out and buy all kinds of crazy supplies if you don't use something a whole lot. If you're going to use the rub and buff like once a week or even, a couple times a week, it might be a good thing. I get my rub and buff off of Amazon. This I get from Hobby Lobby, the Folk Art. And I do believe Walmart has started carrying some Folk Art paints as well. Hello, Susan B. How are you? Good morning, Daryl. And it just kind of brings back some life to that little pull. It gives it a little bit of sparkle. And you guys know me. I like my bling and sparkle. All right. So that's that. So like I said, we're kind of making a little collage of things going on. This is that little candle holder that I got at a garage sale. You can get them at Dollar Tree if you're lucky. Our Dollar Tree doesn't, now the one up north, I should say, I have only been in Dollar Tree a couple of times since we moved in December, which is a blessing, but they're further away from me because then I don't go to all the craft stores. And even like Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby's even further away now that we've moved. So, hey, Kathy, this is just a little balsa wood. It's real soft wood, so you could actually carve in it. That's what they're really good for. These I get at Factory Direct Crafts. You can get them a lot of times just wood circles. Hello, my sweet friend Missy. You can get at Hobby Lobby in the wood pile. This one's fairly thin too, just so that and I didn't want something real thick and chunky on this because we're going to do this. We're also going to decoupage using part of that same napkin, but we're going to use the part with the postcard on it if it works out this way. We may have to go to a different part of the napkin to get a postcard that's going to stay. It's going to be the whole thing. And I do want this because then it will go with a lot of vintage things that you don't maybe not necessarily want a bird on. So let me go ahead and cut the half of this napkin off. Because I still will save, I save all my scraps that I think I might be able to fit on a piece anywhere. It's kind of one of those crafter type crazinesses that you don't know what you're doing with them. And guys, again, the link for Craft Around the Clock is in my description. You're welcome and encouraged to go up there and grab that link and go over and sign it. Join that group. Miss Tracy will definitely, she shares and gets people into that all day long. So every day. All right, now I'm just going to make sure that I get my plies off again. And I usually save, unless they're little pieces like the first one I cut off, I save the plies because you can stamp on them and add them to other projects. And let's just hope that both layers, and they are. This napkin is nice to you. It comes off pretty easily. But if they're pieces like this, you can save them because you can use them for texturing on like clay pots. It works, or bottles or jars. Works really, really good. Or you can stamp on them and add them as layers to your other craft projects. Hey, Myrtle, how are you? Hello, Miss Debbie Blair. All right, same thing. We're going to do the iron-on technique. Like I said, I like that because then I know that it's not going to be real heavy and it's not going to be lots of wrinkles. Good morning, Alita. How are you? First of all, I guess we should paint this little crazy thing. I'm going to paint it because otherwise when the wood gets any kind of saturation of any kind of liquid like Mod Podge or other paint, it is going to turn a little bit darker. And I really don't want it to be dark. The paintbrush is losing its bristle or its coating on its handle. Again, it's a real long, soft bristle brush to keep down the paint strokes. And I will probably go back and distress either with distressing ink or just a sandpaper and do the edges down a little bit, or a like Waverly Antique Wax. Good morning, Marcia. And I will be doing the bottom of this except right in the center. I don't like to put paint if I know I'm going to use another a glue to do something with, because it just prohibits, sometimes you don't get that paint real good and dry before you try to glue it, and then it doesn't stick. Now you can sand these real smooth. Balsa wood sands really easy because it's a real soft. It's even softer than like our regular pine type stuff, signs and stuff like that. That's why some people like to do wood burning with balsa wood, because it's so easily, you know, done. It's not like a little oak circle that's going to be really, really hard to do. Hey, Spirit Rider, how are you this morning? Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay this down and I'm gonna dry the top part before we do the back. And I could even do the back when I'm done. Now, if you want to paint, if you don't want this to be glass and to look like glass, you can do it with chalk paint. And it does stick very well to the glass. If you don't think it's going to, or you don't have that, you can always paint it with Mod Podge and then use your acrylic paint on top of it. But once you stick Mod Podge to glass, it will allow you to stick other paints to it, and things kind of just gel together. Good morning, Lisa and Barb. Welcome. Welcome to Craft Round the Clock and M&C Treasures. My name is Cheryl, if you're not familiar with me. And guys, we'd love to have you. Good morning, Sherry. We would love to have you on our page as a friend and family member. If you tap the screen and go into the upper right-hand corner, you can hit those 3 little dots and follow us, and you can turn on notifications if you want to know. And guys, if you're missing seeing some of your creators that you're used to seeing and you wonder where they went, what happened to them, you might have got unfollowed. That happens when they do the Facebook updates sometimes, that people get dropped off. So just make sure, if you've got somebody you're looking for, go search them out and make sure you're still following them and make sure your notifications are still turned on. We have to say that quite frequently anymore because it happens. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly do the, probably would have helped if I wouldn't have put my paint away. I was looking for where my paint went. Hey, Georgiana. And this is just plain apple barrel acrylic. And like I said, once we put the Mod Podge on it before we decoupage, it'll be fine. It's on bare wood. It's not going to go and be easily, you know, you can sand it off and antique it if you want. I want to make sure that I get close enough to the center so it doesn't look like it's got a, you know, a blank circle in the middle that's not going to be covered up by this little candle holder. And if you ever miss anybody and you thought, you know, you got on the wrong time zone, we do that all the time, guys. Even the people that are used to watching it, sometimes those time zones play havoc with you. You can go back and watch their lives on replay and just let them know that you're watching on replay. Those help us too, so don't ever feel bad if you have something, you know, going on and you can't watch somebody live, because we do like those replays too. And we get notices, so I'm just leaving a little spot so that we've got a little bit of surface to glue to. Hey, Jenny, good morning. Missy, I think I said good morning, but if I didn't, good morning, hon. Hey, Julie. Now the bottom for right now, I'm just going to leave white, because once it's glued on the candle holder, I can always go back and distress it or antique it a little bit more. You're right, Sherry. It is happening more and more. They're doing so many updates, and I wish they could just update everybody. Like, say, we're going to be down for 2 hours on, you know, Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, and here's the time frame, and give everybody a little bit of advanced warning that you're going to be down, and just get everybody in the universe on the same version and the same updates. It's crazy. Hey, Kimberly. I'm watching the birds. We've got Mr. Mike moved my bird feeders out further so I can see all of them instead of just the one right up close to the window. But now I'm going to have to look harder at them. So I'll try not to. When I see something fly by the window of my craft room, I usually look up. Okay. Now I'm just going to go back and Mod Podge the top of this so we can get our little rest of our little bird napkin. But this one's going to be a postcard. Yeah, I know they did another one last night, Patty. I heard it when it started. Sometimes I get notices that there's being updates done to my phone, and sometimes I think they're able to do them that we don't even know it. But we usually know it the next day when things don't go quite as planned for our lives or for us watching people, because it keeps you from sometimes being able to comment and all kinds of great, crazy things. Let me put the lid on this. Hey, Denise. One last dry, guys. I say one last dry. One last dry for this project. How's that sound? I usually do see Mrs. Joyce is right. I usually do see everyone's comments, but for some reason, the last 2 days, Jody, you couldn't get on Miss Pat's either? Ugh. And that is so frustrating for us to hear, because that's why we're here, is to spend time with you guys. And sometimes, like, I saw that comment come up, but most of my comments I'm only seeing scroll at the top of my screen. And I can see when it says somebody's coming on. That's the only reason I know some people are on. But again, you need to make sure you get it real good and dry, because once you put your napkin on and then put your parchment paper on top of it, if it's not real dry, everything will stick and try to come up together, because that heat just reactivates your Mod Podge to where it becomes that glue substance that you want it to be. Yeah, so it's very discouraging for you guys to not be able to get on and see people, and it's discouraging for us that we know it's happening and can't do anything about it. Hey, Jan. And a lot of times you can tell if your paint is dry, not even just by, you know, feeling whether it feels wet or moving your hand and getting something on it. If it's cool to the touch, it's not dry. If it gets hot, it's dry. So now I'm just aiming to get this postcard kind of in the center, maybe a little bit more towards the front. And if I get a couple little flowers, like there's going to be a flower coming in on both sides, I'm okay with that. Like I said, I just kind of want it to be generic to where it's got that vintagey looking postcard on there. And I put my iron far enough away, guys, so if it falls, I don't get burned, because I've been known to grab for it. Good morning, Miss Francis. And that's the wrong thing to do. Just let it fall and, you know, save the fingers. Hey, Deb, good morning. Good morning, Kathy. Now, see, my comments are now rolling. Isn't that the weirdest thing? It's just very frustrating. Now, you guys will notice that there was a fold right at the corner of my postcard part of my picture. And I'll show you where I'm talking about. See this fold line that was the napkin? It went straight down. Now you don't even see that fold line on the piece because of using the iron-on method. And that's one reason that a lot of us like to use it. Now I'm just going to go around. If you go backwards, you have a good chance of peeling off your napkin or your scrapbook paper or your rice paper. It doesn't, napkins and tissue paper are the world's worst for it because it will tear this. Because they're just so fragile and thin. And I am just doing it on the top edge so that I can go back and distress it and give it a little bit of pizzazz on this edge that's now, it's just white again. And I will keep this because remember, I got 2 birds. You never know when I need a little piece for a bird. But this just has like the postcard on it now with a little bit of pinkish red flower here and a little bit of a yellow flower here. So you could always lay like little buds on there if you're doing your decor some with that. I am going to use my dark Kills sealing wax in dark. And I like this because it does go ahead and seal it. And I'm going to go around just this rough edge. Now this is kind of like the routered edge. I think they use a router. Thank you, Beth. And I'm just going to touch it a little bit. And I'll go back with, so see, I'm putting just a little bit of dirty on there. And you can go over your napkin if you want. I probably will not on this one, just like I said, because I want it to be a little bit more, thought that bird was going to fly right in the window there, even though the window's not open. If you want it to be a little bit more antique, you could use Tim Holtz Distressing Oxide or the inks. If you use the inks, you do have to seal them still because they're not self-sealing. All right, and then I'm just going to grab a baby wipe and kind of smooth out the wax on here. So that it just is not that stark white. Now, if you wanted to put like a cashew color or a lighter tan, I did it so because I didn't know what color I was going to be using this with. But I didn't want it stark white, but the white makes a good base for your napkin. Just make sure none of that's wet so that if we lay something down on it. So I'm going to take my little tiny candle holder. We're just making a little riser with it. And it has a very flat surface on the top, and it's fairly good size surface. And I am just going to put my E6000. Again, you could use JB Weld. You could use all kinds of things, guys. And I am just doing it like in dashes so that I can put hot glue in between it so it will stick right now so we want to. Good morning, Miss Lucy. How are you? You're from Southeast Ohio. Welcome, Judy. And then I'm just going to take, don't mix your glues because sometimes that keeps them from, you know, curing the way they're supposed to. And that's why I like to do the little dots and dashes, so to speak. And then try your best to get it on the center. Sometimes I turn mine upside down to find the center easier. It just works better for me. You can measure it if you really, really want to. Good morning, Billy. And then I'm just going to hold it a second, at least till that hot glue sets. Hey, Joella. This is E6000. And it's in one of those, I got it off of Amazon. If you're wanting the link to it, just message me and say glue tube. I do have a Amazon affiliate, so I can do that. It just rolls it up, and it has like a little rubber thing on the bottom, and it stands up. And if you need to lay your E6000 down while you're doing something else, it kind of keeps it from dripping all over your surface. Good morning from Kentucky, Miss Kathy. But that's what I use. On top, they will need to be sealed if you're planning on putting anything, you're right, hot or anything with any moisture. I usually go back and spray everything of mine with that Rust-Oleum 2X, the matte finish. I think it does an excellent job unless it's going to be way out in the elements all the time. Whew. Got glue strings everywhere. But it just makes a cute little thing that you can put any kind of, like a candle, a little bird. I have, these don't go with my the vintage little thing here. But you could put little rabbits on it. These are my little stick rabbits that I made the other day. Just something cutesy on it. And then you can, if you've got these together in a little setting, you kind of see the same background on the napkins, which they did come off of the exact same napkin, but you don't have to use them together. That's what's so nice about it. Hey, Trina, good morning. Now, do have a few more minutes, and we'll just start on another subject. This is another candlestick. Now, these are the ones from Dollar Tree because they're bigger and they're just they're not as fancy looking. So, and this is just a stainless steel little tray that I picked up at Goodwill somewhere along the line. I'm sure it was Goodwill, or it would have been a garage sale, because like I said, if it's silver, if it's just silver plated, I still go ahead and use them, but this one doesn't tarnish, so I know it's stainless steel. And I am actually going to paint this. I want you guys to see it painted, to see the difference of how they look. This will make it a little bit more country, whereas this one is a little bit more feminine and dainty looking. So I start that out by doing Mod Podge on it. Good morning, Judy from Canada, from Wyatt's Whatnots. How are you, my dear? Hey, Wanda. So we're just going to put a layer of Mod Podge on this candlestick, because what we'll do is we'll actually paint it a color. But it shows you that you can, and it, sometimes the chalk paint goes ahead and sticks to it and you don't have a problem on glass. I did clean it with alcohol wipes because that makes everything adhere a little bit better. And I have a bristle in there. But I will do this, and if you wanted to crackle it, you still could do that. You could put on a dark coat over this first. Miss Pat's crackle came out amazing. She said she always has trouble with crackle, but she got some good crackle today. And she went to my old standby of using regular old white glue. It works wonderful. But you could crackle this if you put on your Mod Podge and then you put a dark coat on. Now, don't always think that your crackle has to be dark on the bottom, light on the top. It's quite a different experience to see the dark on the top. It's not as widely done, but you can flip those colors and you can put the light on the bottom. So when you see the cracks in your top coat, you can actually see the light color come through, as opposed to always the other way around, which is the way we mostly do it, is the dark on the bottom is the first layer. And I'm just doing around the edge, not up at the top where I'll glue it onto the tray. And then I'm just going to dry it real quick, and then we'll put the chalk paint over the top of it. Now this one, I'm just actually going to use Ivory Chalk Paint by Waverly, just so it kind of goes with any color. If you've got a certain color scheme in your home and you're just making it for you specifically, by all means, do your color scheme. We just are here for ideas. Happy birthday, Teresa. I didn't know it was your birthday, my dear. Thank you, somebody, for telling me I didn't see the name when it went by. I could sing Happy Birthday by myself, but they might throw me from here to Kingdom Come, but I will anyway. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Teresa. Happy birthday to you. Birthdays come but once a year, so we'll sing this message clear. Happy birthday, Teresa, dear. Happy birthday till next year. Happy birthday, sweetheart. We sing that little version. It's a Swedish version. My husband's family, a lot of them, his mother's side of the family was Swedish, and that's just the little thing on the back end that they always added. I had to get used to it for a while when I first met them, but hey, it's kind of makes it a little bit unique and different. Okay, so now if you look, I mean, it is milky. It's kind of cloudy, but it's not that real bright clear. And then you can do any other colors on it that you want. May have to invest in me some new ivory chalk paint. The last time I was at Walmart here in Tennessee, I only saw white chalk paint. So, and I have that, so I'm not in the market for any white. Now, if you don't want this real full coverage, again, if you use the softer the bristles, the less brush strokes you're going to see, guys. And I didn't grab my smoothest brushing, but I probably would put a little bit of coffee grunge or something on this if I'm using it for something that's not like a shabby chic. If it's more of a farmhouse type thing in any area of your home, I would probably use, like, there is Ciao Bella. I have their distressing inks right now, and I have been using those, but Tim Holtz is really, really good. That's probably what I'll go back to. I've tried this brand and it works. It does the same thing, but I just like the Tim Holtz. It seems to dry faster and cover a little bit better for me. But that's why we try to do a whole lot of different products for you guys, so you can kind of see the differences between them. And I want to thank Miss Tracy for letting me do this Makeover Monday. So like I said, this is a couple of glass candlesticks that we're making over into little risers. We're using a stainless steel plate on this one. Tray, plate, whatever you want to call it. And we are also made over our little harvest block that we had from Walmart from Thanksgiving time. We made that over and put a little springy thing so you can change it. And you know what? If you don't want that bird on there for next spring, or if it comes fall and you don't want to leave that bird on there, you can definitely go back and make it into fall or Christmas or any of that. Okay. So let me just show you. It does dry pretty, but I didn't do, if I wanted it to be real opaque, I could go ahead and put another coat on it as soon as this one dried. But we're going to just leave it with kind of being a little bit of a streaky look. Like I said, it kind of has its own little distressing version there. And I am just wiping off some of this. I'm actually scraping it off with my fingernail. The paint off of the edge of the flat part of this candlestick, because I didn't mean to get that much on there so that it would stick. Now, you can dull this down with lots of things. You can dull it down. You can put a coat of Mod Podge on it and put cinnamon on it, or something like that if you want to make it look rusty. If you want to just do that around the edge. But we don't have a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you this. And like I said, you could put these all three together. And I will glue this on. I won't leave it like this. But I will take a picture. I'll make the edging look old and rusty so you guys would be able to see it. But up after me is Creating with Chris Hunter in a couple of minutes. So you could put all these together, and you could even put your little bird on the larger riser. And you could put something a little dainty. If you had a little bird figurine, you could put that on this one, and it would kind of all coordinate together. And like I said, I will dull this down a little bit. I'll probably put some Mod Podge, and I'm going to definitely put cinnamon around this little ridge, because this tray has that little rope detailing. Or you could even put like a rose-colored or a gold metallic edge on it if you wanted to do that. So I will do that when I take a picture for you guys. I hope this gives you some ideas of little things that you can watch for. It doesn't have to be a huge piece that you're making over. Make lots of little pieces and put them together as a grouping for your home, for your decor, and do the things you feel comfortable doing. Hey, Judy. Patty's multitasking. Oh, well, there's always replay, guys. So we appreciate you. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much. You guys have an awesome day. Jump over and stay in Craft Around the Clock, refresh, and see Miss Chris on her page. Take care. God bless you, and happy crafting.